O'Reilly. You need parts? O'Reilly Auto Parts has parts. Need them fast? We've got fast. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Product availability. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
For all you elk hunters out there, chasing turkeys is basically the same thing. I know the reaction you just gave me, but don't knock it till you try it, and don't try it without OnX. The Hunt app will not only help you find new areas on public ground, but I use it to find out landowner info to get permission on private ground that I see birds on as well. OnX Hunt has a special offer for you. Use code CAL to receive 20% off your membership at onxmaps.com/hunt and find more birds this spring.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
From MeatEater's World News Headquarters in Bozeman, Montana, this is Cal's Week in Review with Ryan Cal Callahan. Now, here's Cal.
Recently, in Kiowa Island, South Carolina, a client awaiting her appointment at a hair and nail salon ended up being dragged into the water by an alligator and drowned. Yes, you heard correctly. A lady waiting for her nail appointment was dragged into the water by a gator and drowned. The proximity of your nail salon to alligators may very well be a factor in your Google reviews. The 57-year-old woman was apparently getting too close to the reptile in an attempt to take a picture. The owner of the salon screamed at her to get away as the gator had taken a deer from the same spot. The woman refused. The proprietor's husband began running to the woman, assumedly to remove her from the water's edge and danger. At this point, the gator made its move by grabbing the victim by her leg and dragging her into the water. A rope was thrown to the victim by a neighbor drawn to the scene by the screams, which she was able to grab. Now she had help on one end and the gator holding her leg on the other. The proprietor's husband began beating the gator on the head with a shovel. Eventually, the gator performed a death roll, which caused the victim to lose her grip on the rope and be dragged under. Just moments before being taken below the surface, the victim apparently looked at her potential rescuers and said in a very calm voice, "I guess I won't do this again." She got that right. Deputies arrived to a calm pond and surveilled the scene for at least 20 minutes before the body surfaced. An attempt was made to retrieve the victim, but the gator still had a hold of its meal. Eventually, the alligator surfaced in an area that allowed a deputy to kill the reptile with his 9mm pistol. Both the body of the victim and the gator were retrieved and sent to respective facilities for autopsies. There have only been 23 reported alligator attacks in the state of South Carolina. Beaufort County, in which Kiowa Island is located, accounts for more than half of them. In fact, Hilton Head, the famed golf destination, is also located in Beaufort County, South Carolina, and it would appear that playing golf dramatically increases one's odds of being bitten by an alligator. In 1990, a golfer was bitten on the calf by a 5-foot gator on Port Royal Plantation. 94, another calf biter on Shipyard Plantation Golf Course, this time a female golfer. 2005, a landscaper on a golf resort. 2009, a 77-year-old golfer loses an arm and likely his game on Fripp Island to a 10-foot gator. In addition to landscape work and golf, walking your dog proved to be both near fatal and fatal on Hilton Head as well. Despite being occasionally problematic at the nail salon or the golf course, the American alligator is a conservation success story. Their status is now threatened as opposed to their once federally endangered species listing. Alligators can be found from North Carolina through Texas with a general proximity to the coast. But, as a U.S. Fish and Wildlife employee in Florida once told me, if you have water, from a bird bath to a swimming pool, you could have a gator. A female gator can lay between 20 and 60 eggs, and when hatched, the young will grow between 3 and 8 inches a year. These won't be considered adults until they hit 6 feet in length. That's roughly 9 years from egg till adult. Although many of the threats to the American alligator have been eliminated, the two major factors that continue to threaten them is the fact that they have an incredible instinct to return to their home locations. Relocated gators have been documented to return to the scene of capture after being dropped over 100 miles away. The other is humans, of course. We keep expanding into gator territory, and when we do, we set up little golf communities, complete with water features and nail salons, apparently. You know, places where gator wants to hang out. If you can't relocate an animal, the animal is typically put down, shot, killed. Considering this inability to relocate a gator after it becomes a nuisance, it is up to us to keep them from becoming a nuisance in the first place. Don't feed them, and don't go for a touch-up on the nails, and ignore the don't get too close to gators warning signs. This week, 3 toes, wildlife contest, tiger sharks, and so much more. But first, I'm going to tell you about my week. I took off on yet another turkey adventure. I actually managed to locate some birds Friday night after a 4.5-mile walk of no birds and a mix of old sign and no sign. Just before dark, I had a possible ambush scenario on a 3-pack of jakes, but as I rounded the corner to cut the birds off, 4 bull elk stood in my way.
Hello there.
So, I went back, camped in the back of the truck, set the alarm for 4 a.m. I walked into the zone about 4:20 a.m., trying to beat any hint of daylight in the open terrain. I coyote howled, crow called, owl hooted, and could not get a gobble. Eventually, I broke and gave a yelp, to which I got a half-hearted gobble in response. Of course, I wasn't where I really wanted to be, but there was a good tree, so I set up the 2 hen decoys I'd been packing around. I set them up for the most likely line of sight to the bird, not some sort of social scenario. The bird started gobbling, 3 in front of me, the jakes, 1 above, and 1 way below. Of course, my mind started turning and imagining the very far-off bird as the wise old gobbler. Then I heard the trio of young birds fly to the ground. I gave a yelp at about 5:50 a.m. The jakes walked up to 1 hen decoy, about 12 yards away, and gave her the cold shoulder as they walked to the other hen. Ooh. The difference between the two, I do not know, but the bird they settled on is a Dave Smith decoy, so the jakes must just expensive fake women. At 5:53, I took the biggest of the 3, and at 6:20 a.m., I was back changing at the truck. Then, fueled by quick success, I decided it prudent to go to another region in Montana where I have valid turkey tags, knowing that now that I had so easily bested 3 birds and put 1 on ice, I'd be able to collect 2 more before the weekend was out. Well, 4.5 hours later, I was in a new spot anticipating turkeys, which I could not locate for roughly 7 hours. The bird, singular, that I did locate actually walked past my truck gobbling as I was staring at my onX maps trying to figure out my next move at 7:30 p.m. I followed this big rope-dragging Boss Tom gobbler for another mile down to his roost, marked it on the map, and even laid my track on the app so I would know exactly where to be in the morning. Again, I camped in my truck with the alarm set for 4 a.m., began to plan, this time for a big old Tom. I was going to bring the whole spread, both hens and a very sharp-looking jake decoy. Obviously, what would happen is the old Tom would get down, see the young jake inspecting beautiful hens right in his landing strip, and run in to the waiting shotgun. This bird was as good as in the pot. The next morning, I'm in the spot, quietly and gently setting my decoys before even a hint of light. The old gobbler is calling. He doesn't even know he's as good as dead yet. I'm fiddling with my camo and my phone when all of a sudden I hear wings. He's flown down, and I don't even think it's legal shooting light yet. On top of that, he's flown to an opposite ridge. I fumble for my call, hear him in response, and he starts to circle back around. I relax, knowing that old Tom is now back on my program. Then he gobbles continually from roughly my right elbow across my back to my left elbow and over the ridge to the left. I reposition and square up to his last gobble and scratch my slate call. Then there he is, standing tall on the little ridge, only about 30 yards away, looking down on the hen decoys. I should have shot him right there, but I had packed all this stuff with me in the dark for the purpose of him putting on a show, getting sucked into the hen decoys, cautiously approaching until he sees the Jake, at which point he loses his little bird mind and races in. But what happens is, he is quickly out of the shooting lane, he circles again, eyeballing in a way that if looks could kill, that little Jake decoy would have burst into flames. He continues to gobble, as I realize that this is his last pass of the morning. I grab all my gear and pursue him until I'm covered in ticks and sweat. Counted 6 of the nasty little bloodsuckers on me at one time. That's a lot for our neck of the woods. I wander back to the truck, watch the rain clouds boil, make an elk tongue sandwich, pack my gear, and start heading home. On the road in front of me, that little storm knocked over 3 fire-killed pines, which, of course, was no match for the world's most perfect little truck companion, my Stihl MSA 200C battery-powered chainsaw. Bet you longtime listeners were wondering how I was going to get that Stihl plug in, huh? Well, I want to take a second to thank all of you longtime listeners, and one in particular, Megan in Utah. And, we should thank your dad and mom as well, who gently nudge you toward the out of doors. I agree with them, by the way, which you probably hate to hear because you're 16. So, anyway, thank you, Megan. Thank you so much for listening and watching our shows and supporting Steve and Giannis and myself and the rest of the crew at Meat Eater. And you are correct. Finding ways to do what you love and what matters is a good way to go about life. So far, so good anyway. So get healthy, and while you are working towards health, remember there are a lot of things you can do from the indoors to appreciate the out of doors, like starting a bird journal or studying up on the stars so when you finally get outside, you won't get lost.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. I don't know if you stopped in at an O'Reilly lately, but I use one because we have one right not too far from my house. People there are super helpful. I don't care if I'm getting boat batteries, car parts, whatever. Love those guys. They got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you don't have to worry if you're in a jam. The team at O'Reilly Auto Parts can test your battery for free, in or out of your car. If it needs to be replaced, they'll help you find just the right battery for your vehicle. If you need your windshield wipers replaced, a brake light fixed, quick service, they'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. Whether you are a car aficionado or an auto novice, you will find the employees at O'Reilly Auto Parts to be knowledgeable, helpful, and best of all, friendly. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things do-it-yourself auto. You can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/meateater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/meateater.
For all you elk hunters out there, chasing turkeys is basically the same thing. I know the reaction you just gave me, but don't knock it till you try it, and don't try it without OnX. The Hunt app will not only help you find new areas on public ground, but I use it to find out landowner info to get permission on private ground that I see birds on as well. OnX Hunt has a special offer for you. Use code CAL to receive 20% off your membership at onxmaps.com/hunt and find more birds this spring.
Now, a lot of you guys are familiar with the old hunting tradition of eating, some organ, the heart or a chunk of liver off the first animal you kill. I had that when I was a little kid, and it was a big deal. Organ meats were always prized by frontier people who knew the importance of getting a lot of different minerals and nutrients. And as often is the case, those guys were onto something. Because organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. And you can get the same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil, made exclusively from regeneratively raised, grass-fed, and finished cattle. Heart and Soil's unique freeze-drying process means all those important nutrients are trapped in, ensuring you experience every one of the benefits of nature's superfood in a clean, convenient, taste-free capsule. Find out more at heartandsoil.co and make sure to use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase. That's heartandsoil.co. Use the code MeatEater.
All right, moving on with a quick stop at the corrections desk. Be careful hunting with sticks. It may not be a legal means of take. Always look at your state and sometimes federal regulations as to what is a legal means of dispatching an animal in the area you are hunting. For instance, as the writer Ben Long is soon to point out on an article at themeateater.com, if you hunt grouse with a stick, or, as the state of Idaho puts it, a hand-thrown missile, you are legal. If you do so in the state of Montana, however, you are not using a listed in the regulations legal means of take. So pay attention. Next, oviparous, you lay eggs. Viviparous, you give birth to live young, but some of you, like the nurse shark, lay eggs inside your body that then hatch inside of you and then are birthed. Some snakes do this as well. You just can't make up your minds, and you are called oviparous. Moving on to the shark desk. OCEARCH recently tracked a female 10-foot tiger shark from Africa to nearly Indonesia, a nearly 4,000-mile swim across the Indian Ocean. This is the longest tiger shark migration ever documented, and the question is, what was her motivation? For those of you who are thinking that the ocean is just one huge body of water, of course fish and sharks swim around. Well, I get it, but that's not typically how a lot of these species work. In fact, that's what makes the ocean so difficult to understand. We don't really know how connected it is, or isn't. When you talk about bluefin tuna imperiled, that is true in some populations, but in other populations, they're doing just fine. At least that's what we think. But tagged fish, or sharks like this 10-footer, may tell us that one population may be visiting another, or actually be part of the same population. Moving on. Whether you claim to love to hate wolves, you still kind of love them. We all do. Predators have been a huge part of the stories of opening up America. Cagey grizzly bears, untreeable lions, and the last of the wolves. At themeateater.com, Spencer Neuharth reports in his latest edition of Barroom Banter on Three Toes, the West's most notorious livestock killer. Three Toes the wolf was a tri-state agent operating in Montana and North and South Dakota. From 1912 to 1920, the unmistakable print of Three Toes was synonymous with livestock killings. Dozens of hunters and trappers failed to kill the notorious wolf. During one pursuit, the wolf even stopped to kill 15 corralled sheep before carrying on with, being chased. Eventually, the long arm of agricultural law stepped up to put an end to Three Toes. The USDA brought in a famous trapper to catch a famous wolf, which of course he did. And in true melancholic Western fashion, Three Toes, even though alive at capture, succumbed not to his wounds, but from the broken heart caused by captivity. To find out just how much damage Three Toes did, go to themeateater.com and look up Spencer Neuharth's Barroom Banter. I'll give you a hint. In 1920s dollars, a loss of $50,000 was credited to the infamous wolf. Give it a read, it's a good one. And if you don't like these romantic notions of the West and its terrible wolves and bears, just think of where poor old Leonardo DiCaprio would be without the Grizz. He couldn't very well win an Oscar by grunting and dragging himself through the British Columbia snow, trying to outcrawl some ungulate chewing on its cud.
the king of the world!
Moving on to the Colorado desk. April 30th, Colorado Parks and Wildlife have voted to eliminate wildlife contests dealing with prairie dogs, coyotes, and all fur bearers. This vote is to amend an earlier rule that basically eliminated just coyote killing contests in 2019. Colorado is not the first state to do this. California, Vermont, New Mexico, Massachusetts, and Arizona have all done this. Partial bans are in place in North Carolina, Utah, Washington, Montana, and Idaho. Why, I say you have to think about the Western spirit of man conquering the wild, yet praising the spirit of the wild in our barroom banter story is this. Coyote and prairie dog contests were not designed with the original intent of folks glory killing for fun and prizes. These contests were designed to draw enough rifles to a single spot, a township or county, that was experiencing agricultural and economic hardships, places where food-producing ground was being chewed up by prairie dog towns or a coyote population boom was coinciding with calving or lambing season. The practice just stayed for right or wrong, sometimes right, sometimes wrong. People who did not get a lot of socializing came together with a common goal in mind. They had a meal together and breathed collective sighs of relief when coyotes were turned in at the end of the contest. Relief that the predator would not be taking spring lambs or calves. This occasional happening, of course, morphed into something else. All I can say is, don't blame the state. Some of the people who participated in these contests had already done their part in ruining them long before the state got involved. Instead of periodic contests aimed at management, the local communities held them every year in order to get the economic gain from the gas and beer buyers. Contestants cheated by bringing in recently killed or previously killed and frozen animals from outside of the area in order to win the prizes offered, and on occasion, those same bad apples would go above and beyond in making sure that if anyone were to look at the contest, they would not see an attempt at curbing a spiking coyote or prairie dog population. They would only see bad behavior. What does not get said in these instances is that because of the lack of coyote or prairie dog contest, the result is not a super happy prairie dog town or coyote pack. The coyotes, if they become trouble, will likely be shot from a helicopter, paid for in part from the agricultural community. The prairie dog town will be poisoned, if not by the rancher, by the periodic plague that rolls through their communities. The only question I have for CPW is, explain why you stop at fur bearers and prairie dogs. A quick search on AmericanFishingContest.com showed 141 fishing contests in the state of Colorado. That's just scheduled for 2020. Why is one okay and not the other? Moving on to the ever-popular crime desk. First stop, New York State, outside of the town of Keysville, located in the Adirondacks. 2 rock climbers are ticketed for failure to adhere to a route closure on Poke O Moonshine, which is a big rock face that has been identified as a peregrine falcon nesting site. Forest rangers and the DEC are working to monitor nesting activity and reopen routes that won't disturb the peregrines. The last time tickets were issued for a violation like this was back in 2000, so this doesn't seem like a common issue. In fact, I found where many rock climbing clubs volunteer time to help monitor the falcons. On a side note, I got to hunt with some falconers last year. Those birds can hit 200 miles per hour when they go into their stoop or dive. Very cool birds who, nest in rocks, so stay off of them until the birds are gone. Next up, the birthplace of the blues, Mississippi. Fun fact for you, Mississippi has 204 native fish species. And it is the home of the teddy bear. It is also home to Kenneth Ray Britt, Tony Grant Smith, Alan Shelton Morgan, and Brianna Janine McKay. These 4 are not a new pop country band like Georgia Florida Line. They are, however, wildlife violators. They somehow managed to rack up about 280 wildlife violations in 2019. The charges are trespassing and the poaching of almost 100 turkeys, all in one season. I should note that Brianna Janine McKay only received 5 of those violations out of the 280 charged amongst the group, which just means she's doing less bad stuff. Remember, Brianna, it's hard to soar with the eagles when you're surrounded by turkeys. That's all I've got for you this week. Thanks for listening to Cal's Week in Review. As per usual, if you want to get a hold of me, write in to askcal@themeateater.com. That's askcal@themeateater.com. Tell me what I'm getting right, what I'm missing, and what's happening in your area. Thanks again. I'll talk to you next week.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase.
Outdoor adventure won't wait for engine problems. Things like hard starts, rough performance, and lost fuel economy are often caused by fuel gum and varnish buildup. Seafoam can help your engine run better and last longer. Simply pour a can in your gas tank. Hunters and anglers rely on Seafoam to keep their engines running the way it should the entire season. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit SeafoamWorks.com to learn more. That's SeafoamWorks.com to learn more.